a red flag flying here.
Mark, welcome to the Chill Out Zone.
Hello.
We can hear you. Smashing. Well, let's just do the listener guest question thing straight away.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, you're great, Mark.
It's glad to have the opportunity to come on here. I've been watching it for the last, I think it's 10 weeks it's been going now.
Yeah.
Really enjoying it. There's all sorts of good points that come up. And if only the Labour Party at the top listened more intently to people like yourselves, we'd be in a better position. I'd like to just quickly say something before I go on to ask my question, which is there's quite an intro to it, but hopefully I can get it over quite quickly. Paul said something.
Take your time. It's the Chill Out Zone. You just sort of we're all ears. It's your bit, is this?
I asked a question last week about the US election, and some excellent points were made. But Paul said something quite nice about me at the start of it before the question was asked. So I just want to say something about Paul. I haven't seen him since 2013, I think.
Yeah,
so
but then
that long ago. We've obviously talked on Facebook, but I haven't seen him in it's over virtual thing at the minute. But I just want to say I've seen a lot of good teachers in when I've gone through primary school and I've gone through secondary school, and obviously I've got the benefit on the I've actually been taught by Paul. I can't think of a more caring and more passionate teacher. I cannot think of a more. And I work in the previous school, my old school now, and there's good teachers, and I can't fault them, but I haven't seen a more passionate teacher than that guy, and I just wanted to say that so everybody heard it, because it's true. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. So I'll move on now.
Thanks, Mark. That means so much.
So now we find out why he was so anxious for you to come onto the show, Mark.
I've been thinking of a question to ask, and it seems right that I ask this one because I'm not infuriated by it. So there's two parts to it, but I'll start off now. So I've just got it wrote down. At a time when we see a rise in nationalism and populism taking hold in societies across the world, fueled mainly by hard right-wing conservatives, who offer simple slogans, nothing else but simple slogans, quick fixes, and bargain basement solutions to often complex 40 and 50-year problems, caused mainly by unfettered capitalism. I know you've touched on that tonight. A conservative economic model not addressed by Labour in previous governments, which actively makes the poor poorer, squeezes the life out of working class people, and increases the wealth, power, and influence on the richest by a mixture of greed, deregulation, and tax cuts. What do you make of the quite blatant conservative agenda that seeks to create a culture of lies and misinformation that has clearly jumped out of TV media, print media, and straight into social media, where the aim is obviously not to challenge opposing views with arguments of equal weight, but to fill these platforms with nothing but noise, distraction, of a purpose of making people that don't know what to believe. This seems to me like it's a direct attack on truth and fact, and an opportunity to play class war and alter our national character, turning us from a we-based society into an I-based society. At a time of racial, economic, Brexit, environmental, and social tensions that left unchallenged will have negative impacts on millions of people. So with all that said, is it possible to do what the Tories have done in times of crisis in their own party? Unite, get behind Keir, end the infighting, the factionalism. Even if we don't get everything we want out of the next manifesto, even if we don't get everything we want out of the next Labour government, at least we'll have put, as and I get this from what Obama said in his last speech, at least we'll have put the country back on track, made progress, and pass on to a world that's better than what we left before.
Thank you. No, I do think, Mark, you sort of answered your own question.
Yes. I'm more interested. I'm more interested to hear what people say.
I think the answer is just yes, really, if truth be told. Let's see. I'll leave you till last, Paul. Okay, Guru Paul. Sam, what's your attitude towards that? I mean, for me, there were two bits of it. First of all, there's a whole load of stuff which is absolutely true about the way the entire establishment and media is just weighed to support the status quo and the increasing injustice of everything. What do you reckon to that? And the second thing is the answer just to fall in line with Keir, understanding that none of us are going to get everything, but at least if we have a Labour government, we'll get something. Sam.
So the points about social media and soundbite politics are big and relevant. As most people around this table know, I am of Bishop Auckland constituency, and we lost our Labour MP at the election. And our new MP is very good at this soundbite politics. She's very good at shutting people down when they say uncomfortable things about her. One of the things she likes to do is quote, retweet or reshare things, because she's got a very passionate fan base of young conservative men all over the world who will bully and beat down, digitally speaking, anybody who speaks out against her. So that's really concerning. And on the night before the general election in December, our constituency was littered with huge posters saying, "Do you trust this man with your children?" A picture of Jeremy Corbyn indicating that it looked like they were saying he was a paedophile. And that is the unfair situation we are in. And we have to go back, it has to be linked back to this Russian interference in our democratic system. You know, they do serve to destabilise democratic systems. That's what the report said. They play both sides to create this noise that throws people off balance and causes uncertainty and infighting. So we really need to be aware and conscious of all of those things. And on top of that, we're also fighting with this quasi-religious sect in America, QAnon, which is seeping over into the UK and backs them up in their free marketeer sort of fundamentalist Christianity. Like I said, it's like a cult, and that's coming over here now as well, and it's backing up a lot of what our extreme right-wing government would like people to believe. So that's something else we've got to really be aware of.
Is the answer just to pitch in behind Keir Starmer?
Yeah, so I am one of the people who joined the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn. Prior to Jeremy Corbyn coming on the scene, I wouldn't have ascribed myself to any particular party. I'd been community-minded, I'd been a teacher. I was taught growing up that we lived in a post-class society and that don't say you're a socialist. I learnt the word socialism. I thought that sounds really good. I tried it out and I was basically told, don't say that again. People will think you're a communist and that's a bad thing. So that's the background. Luckily, growing up under a Labour government, I was convinced that actually I was in a post-class society and that I had the ability to do whatever I wanted in life. And to be fair, I did have quite a lot of opportunities that, as it stands, my children don't have and won't have because there's no infrastructure to support them. So I will say, obviously, I was a passionate supporter of Jeremy Corbyn, but since then, I have learned a lot of things. I've learned about the background of the Labour movement. I've learned about the political landscape, and that socialism isn't a dirty word, and that we are not living in a post-class society. And now I believe it's my duty to stay in the Labour Party and push it forward, because we're the only credible solution to the mess we're in at the moment. So you won't see me sharing anything that tears Keir Starmer down or damages the party, while I might have discussions in my friends about my personal opinions about the shadow ministers. My aim in my public facing role is to get the Labour Party into power, and that's where all my energy is going. So totally agree with you.
Thank you. Laura?
Okay, so first of all, Mark, I have to say thank you for your lovely words about Paul. I obviously was there during the whole time he was at your school.
This is not a Paul loving.
I know,
Okay.
I know, but it's important because teaching's really difficult, and it's really nice to know that people take something from it. Also, I did see you in one of the performances you were involved in, and you were a standout member of the cast, and yeah, it was amazing. So thank you for that. Okay, so in terms of the questions you've asked, I'm probably a realist, and I'm a bit sad. I was, like Samantha, somebody who joined the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn. I was interested in politics beforehand, but didn't feel like anybody really spoke for me until then. I have never publicly gone against anybody within the Labour Party. I do strongly believe that conversations, if you disagree with someone, that's fine. We're not all the same person. You can disagree. That should be done in-house. The Tories have got that down to a T. You have a party line that you come out with. That, for me, doesn't seem to have been the case within the Labour Party recently. I feel like the people who are crying out for unity now are also the people who were desperate to get rid and publicly demonise Jeremy Corbyn. For me, that doesn't sit quite well with me. I don't have any eyes on any political positions or seats or anything like that. All I want to do is to get rid of anyone but the Tories, in my eyes. Keir Starmer he is capable, he's clever, he is left of the Conservatives, so obviously I'll get behind him, and I won't say anything to sort of be negative about him, because I would have preferred people didn't say negative things about Jeremy Corbyn and actively get rid of him and actively destroy our chances. So I will always get behind the Labour Party until they don't speak for people like me. That said, I do find it irritating that the same people who wanted to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn within the Labour Party are now screaming for unity. And honestly, I'm sick to death of having to try and tiptoe around things. This is my own, and even now I have to put a caveat on what I'm saying. This is my own personal opinion and not that of the Labour Party and not that of my husband or anybody else who I might be involved with. I'm sick to death of having to tiptoe on eggshells when ultimately what we need to say is we need socialism in this country. We need people to look out for the working class. We need people to speak up for the working class. I'm sick to death of hearing about electability. If your name's on the ballot, you're electable. If people vote for you, you're electable. You don't need to be polished. You need to say the things that are going to impact working people in this country, working class people, people who've been demonised. The whole immigration debate at the minute is infuriating. 2nd of September, 5 years ago, is the day when Alan Kurdi washed up on the shores and we all saw the photos. That was the day I became vehemently politically active, because that shouldn't happen to any child. I feel like those are the people we should be fighting for, and anyone with an ounce of humanity will be fighting for those people. I get that we've been fed this myth for years and years, since the Thatcher years, that we need to look after ourselves, look after number one, and everything else will be fine. It infuriates me, because actually we need collectivism, we need community. The only way to do that is through socialism. And yes, I'll get behind Keir Starmer. I do believe he has been slightly weak throughout all of the fights we could have had. He has missed so many open goals because the Tories keep lying, they keep making mistakes. We should be points ahead of them. People in this country need better than them, and we need to be offering a good opposition, a strong opposition, and we need to prove that we'll do what's best for this country. And I do hope we will do that.
I could let you go on a long time.
I could go on a long time, John, but I'm going to wind up.
But sort of we do need sort of to listen to Paul. Paul, two questions there. Sort of, is it a lost cause in terms of trying to fight an unwinnable battle in terms of propaganda? And sort of secondly, is the answer to get very excited about Keir Starmer?
I think these two questions are actually like Mark's set them out absolutely brilliantly, and he's highlighted so many issues.
Oh, for God's sake! This is a mutual loving. Come on.
Well, that again, you've tied this in really well, because it should be a mutual loving by people who have similar opinions, the same sort of values. It should be, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. But psychologically. Like my degree originally was in psychology, and I like to look at the psychological aspects of what tends to go on. Psychologically, I think that deep down, everyone knows something's wrong. Something feels wrong. And I think when you've got like a lot of Samantha talked about QAnon there, they're conspiracy theorists. They've got a lot of facts that are actually correct. There are like the Jeffrey Epstein thing's very big with them, and they will say things about there's this global paedophile ring, which actually there was, because Jeffrey Epstein was involved in it and he was doing all these awful things, and their solution is that actually Donald Trump's this inside agent and he's going to solve everything, and he's also this almost this messianic figure. And it's really strange. So what they've done is they've highlighted the problem, and their solution is so strange. So, but people feel that thing, and that's why conspiracy theories feel sort of right to people, because there's something wrong. Now, it's very, very easy to point fingers and go for fear in that. So if you know something's wrong, you might say, okay, well, the real problem is immigrants, or something like that. And that is what the right wing are absolutely, they've fallen over themselves to do it. They're trying to say, because in your brain, fear has an immediate reaction. You have fight, flight, or freeze, and it gets people up. And the problem is, if you're going from our side of the argument, it's a much more frontal lobe argument. I don't want to get too much into the brain or anything like that, but you're going to have to take time to process those arguments. You're going to have to listen to them, and you're going to have to understand them. Understanding takes time. Fear is instant. And we are living in a society where there's all these things that feel wrong, and there is an instant solution through fear. And through fear, that is how the right wing have taken so much control. And actually what they're doing is, it's what they're doing. It's what they're doing with society. We all know something's wrong. We all know it's wrong that there's billionaires with absolutely loads of money, and there's people starving on the street, whether that's a veteran or a child or anyone, and there's this idea that actually, there's someone coming over, this bogeyman who isn't really a human, and that's the sort of language they use around immigrants, and it's the language they've used for hundreds of years around people who are considered who've been racialized as being different to people who are from this country originally. Or I think that's a really silly thing to say anyway, because there were lots of different races here anyway. But they point that fear at someone else, and then that becomes a target, and that's so much easier. That's a really easy route to take. But actually, if you really think about the dark things that are going on, where we have this system in which powerful people are rigging things, and we saw this with Epstein, we saw that Prince Andrew's involved, and we saw that these people, they really are acting as if they're above the law. They've got a lot of money, and they're acting in this really, really bizarre way that is totally devoid from our life, totally nothing to do with how we behave at all. And then people go, oh, well, you know, it's for this reason, or it's for that reason, or, you know, Trump's a freedom fighter, and, you know, they come to this wrong conclusion. The solution to that, the only solution to that, is for good people to have the right conversations with lots and lots of people. Because remember, we've got billionaire-owned press. Now, if they are in charge, this really, really dark situation where billionaires are in charge of the press and they're telling us things, they're telling us that the Labour Party are actually evil, and they're telling us that the left wing are actually the problem. And you're like, what? Left wing just means being fair, you know, trying to be fair. And it's actually an economic system. It's like, well, if you're left wing, you think that the resources should be shared out fairly amongst the population. And if you're right wing, you think that it's all right for there to be billionaires. That's a really simplification of the argument, but that's the basic argument. So how is what we are saying evil? It's evil to be fair. Well, hang on, we were taught at school to be fair. So we've got to try and put those ideas in other people's heads and say, actually, what we're talking about here is just fairness. It's just exactly what you want. But that is a much more difficult argument to have with someone, or a more difficult discussion, because people will tend to come around to your point of view. The only way to do that is through mobilising the mass membership of, in this country, the Labour Party. We've got a lot of good people who are members of the Labour Party. And for me, that's my focus. There are 6 members on the screen at the moment of the Labour Party, and you know, five other than me, who I would really trust to get that message across to other people. That is the Labour Party's biggest advantage. We've got good people, and instead of those good people going out and spreading that message of fairness, inequality, and saying, actually, we're working hard for you, we want you to do well, we are focused on very, very silly things, very like sort of internal power struggles within the party. I think that's wrong. I think what happened to Jeremy Corbyn is in many ways absolutely unforgivable, but you can't just not forgive. You've got to move. You've got to move on. You've got to try and make the best of the situation. I would like Keir Starmer to be more engaged with the membership. I would like to feel that members are being listened to and that members' opinions are important. I'm not going to say anything like specifically to criticise anyone in the leadership or anyone on the front bench of the Labour Party at the moment, but in general, we're hearing some very strange statements that are not really what I would consider to be Labour values, such as like someone who was promoted onto the front bench had talked about the undeserving poor and you know, like and benefit scroungers and things like that. And it's not really the message you want to be talking about. That's the wrong message. And like and it feels a little bit like when Ed Miliband was in charge and the focus groups came to the conclusion that we needed to have a mug with controls on immigration. I'm worried that we are moving towards focus group led policy making when you have got your policy making body ready made. They pay money to the Labour Party to get involved. They have some brilliant ideas. Not everyone's ideas are the same. I'm a chair of the Labour Party in Sedgefield, and I don't get every idea through that I want to get through the Labour Party. It's a democracy. We talk about things and we come to the conclusion, and there's people who know loads more than me about something, and there's someone else who knows loads more about something else. There's always an expert in the room. The advantage is lots and lots of people who are passionate, who care, and that's the important thing about the Labour Party. And that's what I want in a leader. I want a leader who listens to its members. And if that was possible, and if that is the case with the current leadership, I can get 100% behind that, because the membership are the important thing.
Thank you very much indeed. We've overrun slightly, but I'm going to bring this section to a close by, as we do with our guest listener question, just by letting Mark sort of have the last word.
I think
the floor is yours, Mark.
I think everybody's made fantastic points, to be honest. And my question was absolutely not a free pass on policy for Keir Starmer. We still need that transformational change in the country. So what Laura was saying was absolutely correct. We still need, there's still people living on the streets. There's still people going to food banks. There's still people who can't find GP appointments. You know, there's still people who can't get the kids into school. We need that fundamental change. So it was not a free pass on Keir. I just want to wrap up by saying that I was watching the not sure anybody else seen it. It was in about 2 o'clock in the morning. But last night there was the opening night of the DNC, which is the Democratic National Convention in America, and I was listening to a number of speakers. One was John Kasich, who was the former governor of Ohio, Republican, and a number of other Republicans who were on there to support Biden because they said this is not us. This is not us. This where we're heading here with Trump. That's not America. No, that's not America. That's not what it was founded on. You know, to think that the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln, and we've got somebody like that now, is an absolute travesty, really. But if anybody didn't see Michelle Obama's speech, it's on YouTube or it's on the DNC Facebook page. Go and see it. It was absolutely fantastic. And Bernie Sanders as well was on there, and he had a very good speech. And it was all about, yes, we've got differences. Yes, Biden and Sanders have got differences over healthcare and a number of other issues. But get together and beat this guy. He needs beaten. I was looking at the Trump Twitter page, which I don't suggest anybody does really. But I was watching it today and last night when he was attacking people after what he'd seen on the DNC. He's obviously watching it, and we come up with things like I'll only lose this election if it's rigged. You know, Ted Cruz, a Republican, a hard right conservative, was saying they want to enable voter fraud. The Democrats, you know, I could go on and on and on. Biden wants to destroy the Second Amendment. Biden wants to destroy the economy. Biden wants to destroy the country. That's the sort of people we're dealing with. We need to beat them. Because what happens in America, as the financial crash showed us, what happens in America impacts us too. I
think the message is absolutely clear that Trump has learned a lesson, which is you just say the nastiest, most extreme, crazy things. And there's a whole load of people who will believe it on principle. And so when you're up against people who have a principle, you just win hands down because they can't fight with that kind of.
And I do predict, John, he's going to lose, by the way.
So well,
I hope you're right.
Pray God. Right, we've overrun slightly on that, but sort of what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give Paul a chance to, when he comes to edit the thing, the chill out zone. This is a good place to end. Thank you very much for what was clearly a very thought-provoking question, Mark, and welcome to the show. And that will be goodbye from all of us. So let's just all say goodbye so we can edit goodbye, Paul. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Goodbye, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll keep the red flag flying here.